Hello everyone, this is Bench85. Welcome to a very special episode of KSP. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the shape of this rocket. It is actually a real life rocket. It's actually sunset right now. But this is my version of the Delta IV Heavy variant that is being used to launch the Orion space capsule, which is up here. This is the closest I could get with the parts that I had to what would be used in an Orion mission, all the way up to the launch escape tower if it were ever needed. And I wanted to coincide this with the launch that was originally scheduled for this morning. I'm recording this on Thursday, December 4th, I believe is the date. Yep. And because of some issues, one with some wind and second with some valves that were not opening and closing properly in the fuel tanks, they scrubbed it till Friday morning, and this video will be releasing Friday morning. So this will be releasing hopefully with an actual launch. But I wanted to actually go through and show you guys what the test is going to be, what they are planning on doing. I don't believe they have the launch escape system on because there's no astronauts going up, and we don't have astronauts going up. Staging is a little bit complicated, but you know, that's how I had to make it work. So without further ado, let's throttle up a little bit and let's fire this baby up. 3, 2, 1, launch. Beautiful. We've cleared the tower. Now, the Delta IV, as such, does use 3 boosters, just like this. I think they're 3 identicals. The only difference being in that the center booster throttles down to about 58%, they said, not long into the flight. And what that does is it allows for it to burn longer because it's not burning at quite the high of a rate as the other ones are. In this case, I just have this one set at a lower throttle point so it won't use as much fuel. Plus I have there's so much fuel in these tanks otherwise, but I wanted to make it look as good as possible. We need to start cranking this guy over. Otherwise we're going to get to be a little bit too aggressive of a climb. But I also don't want to flip this guy over. I originally thought that maybe they were using some sort of an asparagus stage, but they are not. The boosters are not interconnected, only SpaceX does that. And we have outer booster separation. We're going to throttle all the way up. So we continue on our center booster. This should get us into the edge of space, but will not finish the orbit. We're going to keep cranking this guy over. Just watching that apoapsis. We want it to just clear the edge of space. I notice these rockets are very quiet compared to some of the other KW rocketry engines that I've used. Kind of refreshing. But the goal of the test flight is they're looking to take the capsule first into a low Earth orbit. So that is what we are aiming for first here. This booster will take it into the edge of space, but will not finish the orbit for us. What should we have left? Delta V, about 600. Looking good, looking good. My numbers are working out pretty darn close to what I want them to be. I need to get this over though. I need to control that that climb that we're doing here. Watching our fuel. Everything is looking really good. We want to just crest the 70,000 mark as we run out of fuel here. Almost there. Just crested. 75 will be just about perfect. Oh, right on the dot. So booster run out. So we're going to have booster separation. We now have this version of the rocket, basically. I'm going to cut throttle for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this drift up to our apoapsis. I'm not in space yet, so we're just going to drift as such. Everything is looking good. This is a little bit shorter than the actual, I think the entire rocket is a little bit shorter than the actual Delta IV, but it is about as close as I could get in KSP. We're getting there. And actually, if you look at my orbital map, this is our actual save. KSS is orbiting all of our other stuff. This is our normal save that I'm doing this in. And this does count as an actual flight. At least I am counting it as that. Almost to space. Okay, now we are. We're gonna zoom up into our apoapsis. 30 seconds out, 20 seconds out. We are gonna crank up the engines to full throttle and stage. Our launch escape system was ejected. The fairings are jettisoned. We now have a capsule. And we have orbit. Not perfect, but we have orbit. Perfect. So, as you can see, we're on the back side here, so we consider our terminator as that where we started. What the spacecraft will do, I gotta watch this, is it will do one orbit just to verify that everything is where it should be. Make sure the telemetry is going exactly how they want it to be. Everything is looking good. Everything is checking out. And after one orbit, which we're coming up on our terminator again here, right about here, we're going to slow her down. And what the spacecraft is going to do is it's going to orient itself on the prograde vector. And it will relight its engine to verify that it can relight. And it will kick its orbit way out. We're going to kick it out maybe to about 600, about 500,000. No, 600,000 sounds good. I think. Let's see what it looks like. No, we got to go more than that. We're right about 2,000. Okay, so it's going to kick its orbit way out. Also serving a couple different purposes. Number one, like I said, to make sure the engine will relight. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to verify that the spacecraft can handle the radiation of space, because it's going to have to go up and through the Van Allen belts, which are the radiation belts that our magnetosphere has trapped from the sun, and then it'll come back down through them. So it has to deal with that, just to make sure that it can handle all the radiation that space has to offer, so that it can keep its astronauts safe. It's also looking to orient itself for a high-speed re-entry. So by pitching itself way out here, it's going to get a lot of velocity for when it comes back down. So we're just nearing our apoapsis now. And I'm actually going to have to adjust this just a touch. The spacecraft itself will actually use the little jets that are on the spacecraft in order to orient itself here. I'm going to have to do this by hand with the engine a little bit. I probably could have set up a maneuver node, but I was doing this quickly. That'll definitely bring us back. Ooh. Okay, so what it'll actually do is it will jettison its near the top here, or on its way back in. It will jettison its service module area, like so. Use the jets on the spacecraft to orient itself and to get it into a re-entry attitude like we have here, where the periaps is dipping into the atmosphere. And then, let's see, I want to turn off SAS. Use as little power as possible because I don't want it to run out of electricity on our way in. Now we are headed back home very slowly. There's the other part. Oh yeah, we'll be fine for electricity. So you can see our orbital speed is picking up quickly. 2300 is normal orbital speed. We are going to far bypass that. As we come in here, start slowing her down as far as time warp. And now we enter the last phase. As they put it, probably the most dangerous part of the entire mission, which is the re-entry. I might actually hit water. Okay, so we orient ourselves on the retrograde here. And we've just started to hit the atmosphere. Now, the actual spacecraft, they said, will be entering the atmosphere somewhere around 20,000 miles per hour. I wish they'd have that in meters per second. I don't have the ability to calculate that straight over. Well, maybe I do as we're coming in here. Quick. If I calculate this out on my phone, somebody else I'm probably is thinking, oh, you know that already. Speed. Miles per hour. About 20,000. Which is just shy of 9,000 meters per second. Much, much faster than what we're seeing here coming in. But then again, Earth is much, much bigger. Oh yeah, this capsule does not technically have a heat shield, but that's just the way game is. So we're going to hit the worst part here of the atmosphere as we're hitting the thick part at very high velocity. You'll start to see the heating. Basically, that's the air molecules in front of the capsule is being pressurized to such a point that it actually starts creating plasma. And the plasma is like twice the temperature, I think, of hot lava, molten lava. It said somewhere around 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And the spacecraft will black out at that point because no communication can get through that hot plasma. And at 20,000 miles per hour that it's going, it will eventually slow down to about 300 miles per hour somewhere in the upper atmosphere. And all the while, the capsule is making little corrections to itself, making sure that its orientation is correct so that it doesn't skip out or doesn't go too deep, because there's a very narrow window to come down through. We are slowing down pretty darn well. So you can see the heating is subsiding. Let me go into the last little bit of here of how things are going to happen here. I'll let the heating finish. There we go. The first stage of recovery then is it will pop a drogue chute. And actually it'll be two of them will get popped. And they'll start out in a somewhat of a slowed or a partial deploy. What's the word? It's partially deployed. It's considered reefed. Basically, it's slowing stuff down, but not at the full effect that it could be. Mostly to keep the astronauts happy and healthy. So it's not a sudden velocity change, basically. And at a certain point, the drogue chute will be enough. The drogue chute will cut itself, and 3 mains will open up. and those will also be reefed. And there'll be multiple stages. You can see these are actually technically reefed because they don't fully open until you get closer to the surface, somewhere around 500 meters in this case, as far as the game goes. And what I remember, when they're fully expanded in the real aircraft, real spacecraft, the amount of canopy, the amount of fabric that the parachutes cover is somewhere around the size of an American football field. It's the largest parachutes that have ever been built for a spacecraft, which is fitting because it is the largest capsule ever sent into space. And so then it's a slow descent as they finally finish opening. And in real life, it'll slow it down to about 20 miles per hour, and at that speed, it will finally touch down in the water, just like that. And we are back home. And then the ships come and rescue the capsule because all of that telemetry will be on board. But that, guys, is the Orion test flight that will be hopefully happening today. Hopefully as I release this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll get back to our normal scheduled series in the next episode. So thanks for watching, and as always, take it easy.